Hi, this is Iris, and welcome to Parapopulous. We'll get to our feature story in just a second, but first, let's catch up. As you may or may not have noticed, we've been on a little bit of a break, an unintentional one, albeit, and we are back. The blog will go out bi-weekly. The podcast will go out on a bi-weekly basis as well, so you should be getting an alternating selection of podcast and blog. Here's the thing. There's a lot of stuff that goes on to keep this going. And if you would like to contribute, you can do so over on Patreon. Patreon.com/Parapopulous. And you can help fund the stories, the research, the audio files, and you get some perks out of it as well. So if you do enjoy the podcast or the blog and you're happy to see it back, your support would be great and really, really welcome. But now, on to the business at hand. Today's feature story, Richard Returns. Are you happy to be here, or is that just your face in the floor? So this was a blog post on April the 8th of 2016. And it's all about Richard III. Now, poor Richard III, he was the last king of the House of York. And he was the King of England from 1483 until 1485. And unfortunately for Richard, he ended up buried under a car park. His remains have only recently been moved. They were moved to underneath the cathedral, the Leicester Cathedral. Oh my goodness, there's a tongue twister for tonight. In March of 2015. His body was found in 2012. And, obviously you get buried and society moves on and yada yada. You end up under car park. I can't imagine a king would be terribly happy about being under a car park. I don't know. Call me kooky. Anyways, this story starts with a sensitive who decided to go and look at the cathedral. She's always felt a connection, and she just took a trip in September of 2015. And she wanted to pay her respects. Now, some of her friends have called her a spirit paparazzi because, well, this isn't her first time catching something like this. So, she says she went in and she felt a calm, authoritative presence when she first got to the cathedral. And, she kind of felt like it was almost being guided to take this picture. So you can see the picture and the link to the original article on the blog. I'll make sure that note is posted and you guys will be able to make your way back. But, it's definitely a face on the floor. Matrixing. We have this great debate, don't we? Like, human beings like to see familiar patterns in things, so we find faces or, letters or something. Like, we're always just looking for something to reassure us, almost. This definitely looks like a face from the little close-up thingy that they have. And, it's kind of hard to tell, but it seems very similar to the official portrait of Richard III. So, who's to say? Who's to say that it couldn't be? Now, here's the thing. If it's nothing else other than matrixing, oh my goodness. It's been a while. I'm out of practice. Forgive me. It's a hell of a good matrixing. Look, the light in the right angle, the marble, yada yada. I know. But what if? What if good old poor Richard III, he's laying in the car park going, I'm a king? Yo, excuse me. There are people parking over my head. What if he's just really happy to be in a place where he feels, appreciated? I mean, think about it. If you were under a parking lot while the majority of royalty was being, rejoiced and interred in, cathedrals or, major spots that couldn't be missed, and people were able to go and visit you. And I mean, let's not even take into account the fact that poor old Richard was big, bad, ugly Richard, and nobody really liked him up for the longest time. And I mean, we're starting to kind of understand history a little bit more, and we're putting together a few more puzzle pieces. So yeah, I mean, we won't factor that in, but let's just factor in the fact you die, you're put to rest. This is supposed to be somewhere where people can pay respects, and it's based on like, hey, I'm a king, and you end up under a car park. I mean, you'd have to think you might be a little bit unsettled. So, I mean, the fact that she feels that when she went in, it was almost like he was trying to tell her he was at peace. And I mean, I would guess you probably would be a little more comfy without, an engine over your face. But I mean, history is a funny thing, isn't it? I mean, there's just the out and out, right? Oh my goodness, it's just, no, don't know, so wrong. But then history, depending on who gets to write it, and it's always the victor who gets to write history. It's never the common person or the quote-unquote losers. It's always the victors. This is how we get the thing about Cleopatra and how she is, but where she's actually, if you look at the coins, she's not really that attractive. And, she was incredibly smart. But people like to play it up on the whole glamorous Hollywood version. So, I mean, history is being told by the victors. It's something we kind of have to take with a grain of salt. And, I mean, you can't help Richard being buried where he was because, society moves on, and, you don't necessarily catch everything that's under the ground, which is how we end up with houses on, former burial grounds and things like that. How likely is it? You know what I mean? Like, how likely is it that this man who, Shakespeare, put down pen to paper and wrote a little bit about, or, you know what I mean, is now at rest and shining his happy face through the floor? I don't know. I don't. Look, I want to believe. I'm a believer. I want to believe in things, and I do believe in things that go bump in the night. And I do believe in spirits being at peace or not at peace if they haven't been respected in their burial or after burial or things like that. I think that what the thing is showing in the floor looks like a face. I think it resembles him. Do I think that he's necessarily so happy to be in a cathedral that he's, somehow changed the marble to show his face? I don't know. And I mean, listen, you could go and you could see it, and even if you went in person and you saw this and you were like, hey, that is definitely a face, and that definitely looks like King Richard III, or, how do you know that? I mean, it does play into the thing of how do you know that you're not looking to see that, so you're seeing it? And how do you know it wasn't just a randomly good piece of marble that just happened to have that? I mean, where did this marble come from? Was this marble there when Like, did they pick up this piece of marble to put it down once they buried him there? Was it brought in? I mean, if it was there, do we have pictures of the marble before? I'm not trying to be a naysayer. I'm just trying to say we need a little bit of appreciation from all points of view. I think if I were a king, I'd be a heck of a lot happier being in a more respectful place. Because back in the day, you know, the king and the church, and there's your power, and I mean, it only makes sense he would be a little bit more pleased. And I mean, the fact that his tomb has a really standout spot. It takes the pride of spot, and it's, you know, it's really suiting to a king. And the cathedral being small, I mean, that's really a lot of focus on him. So, you know, maybe he felt that, you know, and in terms of, you know, this is a sympathetic person who's open to this and going in. Maybe somehow he was able to alter the matrix of it or imprint that energy to put his face. I'm not sure. You know, I'd be interested to see if anybody else had caught a picture, or if maybe he was just showing his face through for her because he knew she'd be able to see him. I mean, that's a possibility. I mean, it's definitely got the hat. It's definitely got, you know, the darker hair, the sort of little mouth with the quite rounded top, and the nose and all that stuff. So, I mean, there's definitely a possibility. And, you know, the poor man having had such a tumultuous reign, and apparently there's some, you know, DNA studies that are saying there was some infidelity in his family tree. You know, maybe this little bit of respect has put him at ease, made him happy, and, you know, it's like trying to find somebody if you don't speak the language around you. When you finally find somebody who understands you, you're just like so happy, and you're just, hey. So maybe this is his, you know what, not everybody speaks Ghost. So now that we do, hi, and, you know, here's your reward. You get a really nice picture of me. You know what, listen, in a way I'd like to hope so, because it'd be nice to know that you know, someone was at ease now. But in another way, if you think about it, if this poor fool has been at just such kerfumbling since he was buried, don't do the math on that. That's a long time to be laying under the ground, cheesed off. Or maybe he was comfortable until they put the car park over him, and that disturbed him, and maybe he's only been cheesed off since then. I don't know. I'm not Richard III. But, I mean, if you think about it in that sense, it's a little disturbing that this man would have been not at rest for hundreds and hundreds of years. That's not the way I want to go. No thanks. I mean, you know what? I don't know. Like, throw me to the wolves or something. At least that I won't have to worry about a car leaking oil on my face. Oh my goodness. All right, folks. It's been fun. It's been a while. I'm a little rusty. It's a little, you know, we'll get back in the rhythm. We'll get things going again. And remember, you can show your support through Patreon with a donation of $1 a month. It'll help the internet towards the internet and keeping the recording up to date so we can give you the best possible. And you know what? I'm happy to be back. It's been great. And yeah, I will haunt you on a much more regular basis. So until that time, boo, we'll be back in a few. Remember to like, subscribe, and you can find the blog on Bloglovin as well as WordPress.